It was a reverberating clang of metal that roused Murillo. He groaned and struggled dazedly to a sitting position. About him all was silence and darkness, and for an instant, he was sickened with the fear that he was blind. Then he remembered what had gone before, and his flesh crawled. By the sense of touch, he found that he was lying on a floor of evenly joined stone slabs. Further groping, discovered a wall of the same material. He rose and leaned against it, trying in vain to orient himself. That he was in some sort of a prison seemed certain, but where and how long he was unable to guess. He remembered dimly a clashing noise, and wondered if it had been the iron door of his dungeon closing on him, or if it betokened the entrance of an executioner. At this thought, he shuddered profoundly, and began to feel his way along the wall. Momentarily, he expected to encounter the limits of his prison, but after a while, he came to the conclusion that he was traveling down a corridor. He kept to the wall, fearful of pits of other traps, and was presently aware of something near him in the blackness. He could see nothing, but either his ears had caught a stealthy sound, or some subconscious sense warned him. He stopped short, his hair standing on end. As surely as he lived, he felt the presence of some living creature crouching in the darkness in front of him. He thought his heart would stop when a voice hissed in a barbaric accent.
Murillo, is that you?
Conan!
Limp from the reaction, the young nobleman groped in the darkness, and his hands encountered a pair of great naked shoulders.
A good thing I recognized you,
grunted the barbarian.
I was about to stick you like a fattened pig.
Where are we? In Mitra's name.
In the pits under the Red Priest's house. But why?
What is the time?
Not long after midnight.
Murillo shook his head, trying to assemble his scattered wits.
What are you doing here?
Demanded the Cimmerian.
I came to kill Nabonidus. I heard they had changed the guard at your prison.
They did,
growled Conan.
I broke the new jailer's head and walked out. I would have been here hours ago, but I had some personal business to attend to. Well, shall we hunt for Nabonidus?
Murillo shuddered.
Conan, we are in the house of the Archfiend. I came seeking a human enemy. I found a hairy devil out of hell.
Conan grunted uncertainly. Fearless as a wounded tiger as far as human foes were concerned, he had all the superstitious dreads of the primitive.
I gained access to the house,
whispered Murillo, as if the darkness were full of listening ears.
In the outer gardens, I found Nabonidus' dog mauled to death. Within the house, I came upon Jokab, the servant. His neck had been broken. Then I saw Nabonidus himself, seated in his chair, clad in his accustomed garb. At first, I thought he too was dead. I stole up to stab him. He rose and faced me. God!
The memory of that horror struck the young nobleman, momentarily speechless, as he relived that awful instant.
Conan,
he whispered.
And it was no man that stood before me. In body and posture, it was not unlike a man, but from the scarlet hood of the priest grinned a face of madness and nightmare. It was covered with black hair, from which small, pig-like eyes glared redly. Its nose was flat, with great flaring nostrils. Its loose lips writhed back, disclosing huge yellow fangs like the teeth of a dog. The hands that hung from the scarlet sleeves were misshapen and likewise covered with black hair. All this I saw in one glance, and then I was overcome with horror. My senses left me, and I swooned.
What then?
Muttered the Cimmerian uneasily.
I recovered consciousness only a short time ago. The monster must have thrown me into these pits. Conan, I have suspected that Nabonidus was not wholly human. He is a demon, a were-thing. By day he moves among humanity in the guise of men, and by night he takes on his true aspect.
That's evident,
answered Conan.
Everyone knows there are men who take the form of wolves at will. But why did he kill his servants?
Who can delve the mind of a devil?
Replied Murillo.
Our present interest is in getting out of this place. Human weapons cannot harm a wereman. How did you get in here?
Through the sewer. I reckoned on the gardens being guarded. The sewers connect with a tunnel that lets into these pits. I thought to find some door leading up into the house unbolted.
Then let us escape by the way you came.
Exclaimed Murillo.
To the devil with it. Once out of this snake den, we'll take our chances with the King's guardsmen and risk a flight from the city. Lead on.
Useless.
Grunted the Cimmerian.
The way to the sewers is barred. An iron grill crashed down from the roof. If I had not moved quicker than a flash of lightning, its spearheads would have pinned me to the floor like a worm. When I tried to lift it, it wouldn't move. An elephant couldn't shake it, nor could anything bigger than a rabbit squirm between the bars.
Murillo cursed, an icy hand playing up and down his spine. He might have known Nabonidus would not leave any entrance into his house unguarded. Had Conan not possessed the steel spring quickness of a wild thing, that falling portcullis would have skewered him. Doubtless his walking through the tunnel had sprung some hidden catch that released it from the roof. As it was, both were trapped, living.
There's but one thing to do,
said Murillo, sweating profusely.
That's to search for some other exit. Doubtless they're all set with traps, but we have no other choice.
The barbarian grunted agreement, and the companions began groping their way at random down the corridor. Even at that moment, something occurred to Murillo.
Wait, how did you recognize me in this blackness?
He demanded.
I smelled that perfume you put on your hair when you came to my cell,
answered Conan.
I smelled it again a while ago, when I was crouching in the dark and preparing to rip you open.
Murillo put a lock of his black hair to his nostrils. Even so, the scent was barely apparent to his civilized senses, and he realized how keen must be the organs of the barbarian. Instinctively, his hand went to his scabbard as they groped onward, and he cursed to find it empty. At that moment, a faint glow became apparent ahead of them, and presently they came to a sharp bend in the corridor, about which the light filtered grayly. Together they peered around the corner, and Murillo, leaning against his companion, felt his huge frame stiffen. The young nobleman had also seen it. The body of a man, half naked, lying limply in the corridor beyond the bend, vaguely illumined by a radiance which seemed to emanate from a broad silver disk on the farther wall. A strange familiarity about the recumbent figure, which lay face down, stirred Murillo with inexplicable and monstrous conjectures. Motioning the Cimmerian to follow him, he stole forward and bent above the body. Overcoming a certain repugnance, he grasped it and turned it on its back. An incredulous oath escaped him. The Cimmerian grunted explosively.
Nabonidus, the Red Priest!
Ejaculated Murillo, his brain a dizzy vortex of whirling amazement.
And then who? What?
The priest groaned and stirred. With cat-like quickness, Conan bent over him, poniard poised above his heart. Murillo caught his wrist.
Wait, don't kill him yet.
Why not?
Demanded the Cimmerian.
He has cast off his wereguise and sleeps. Would you awaken him to tear us to pieces?
No, wait.
Urged Murillo, trying to collect his jumbled wits.
Look, he's not sleeping. See that great blue welt on his shaven temple? He's been knocked senseless. He may have been lying here for hours.
I thought you swore you saw him in beastly shape in the house above,
said Conan.
I did. Or else he's coming too. Keep back your blade, Conan. There is a mystery here even darker than I thought. I must have words with this priest before we kill him.
Nabonidus lifted a hand vaguely to his bruised temple, mumbled, and opened his eyes. For an instant they were blank and empty of intelligence. Then life came back to them with a jerk, and he sat up, staring at the companions. Whatever terrific jolt had temporarily addled his razor-keen brain, it was functioning with its accustomed vigor again. His eyes shot swiftly about him, then came back to rest on Murillo's face.
You honor my poor house, young sir.
He laughed coolly, glancing at the great figure that loomed behind the young nobleman's shoulder.
You have brought a bravo, I see. Was your sword not sufficient to sever the life of my humble self?
Enough of this.
Impatiently returned Murillo.
How long have you lain here?
A peculiar question to put to a man just recovering consciousness,
Answered the priest.
I do not know what time it now is, but it lacked an hour or so of midnight when I was set upon.
Then who is it that masquerades in your own gown in the house above?
Demanded Murillo.
That will be Thack.
Answered Nabonidus, ruefully fingering his bruises.
Yes, that will be Thack. And in my own gown, the dog.
Conan, who comprehended none of this, stirred restlessly and growled something in his own tongue. Nabonidus glanced at him whimsically.
Your bully's knife yearns for my heart, Murillo.
He said,
I thought you might be wise enough to take my warning and leave the city.
How was I to know that was to be granted me?
returned Murillo.
At any rate, my interests are here.
You are in good company with that cutthroat.
Murmured Nabonidus.
I had suspected you for some time. That was why I caused that pallid court secretary to disappear. Before he died, he told me many things. Among others, the name of the young nobleman who bribed him to filch state secrets, which the nobleman in turn sold to rival powers. Are you not ashamed of yourself, Murillo? You white-handed thief.
I have no more cause for shame than you vulture-hearted plunderer.
Answered Murillo promptly.
You exploit a whole kingdom for your personal greed, and under the guise of disinterested statesmanship, you swindle the king, beggar the rich, oppress the poor, and sacrifice the whole future of the nation for your ruthless ambition. You are no more than a fat hog with his snout in the trough. You are a greater thief than I am. This Cimmerian is the most honest man of the three of us, because he steals and murders openly.
Well then, we are all rogues together.
Agreed Nabonidus equably.
And what now? My life?
When I saw the ear of the secretary that had disappeared, I knew I was doomed.
Said Murillo abruptly.
And I believed you would invoke the authority of the king. Was I right?
Quite so.
Answered the priest.
A court secretary is easy to do away with, but you are a bit too prominent. I had intended telling the king a jest about you in the morning.
A jest that would have cost me my head.
Muttered Murillo.
The king is unaware of my foreign enterprises.
As yet.
Sighed Nabonidus.
And now, since I see your companion has his knife, I fear that jest will never be told.
You should know how to get out of these rat dens.
Said Murillo.
Suppose I agree to spare your life. Will you help us to escape? And swear to keep silent about my thievery.
When did a priest keep an oath?
Complained Conan, comprehending the trend of the conversation.
Let me cut his throat. I want to see what color his blood is. They say in the maze that his heart is black, so his blood must be black too.
Be quiet.
Whispered Murillo.
If he does not show us the way out of these pits, we may rot here. Well, Nabonidus, what do you say?
What does a wolf with his leg in the trap say?
Laughed the priest.
I am in your power, and if we are to escape, we must aid one another. I swear, if we survive this adventure, to forget all your shifty dealings. I swear, by the soul of Mitra.
I'm satisfied.
Muttered Murillo.
Even the Red Priest would not break that oath. Now to get out of here.